Yo, yo, yo. What's good? What's good? It's Stormy B Man, and I am back. Welcoming you to the Tuesday Tussle for this Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. We're calling this one the Cliche in Boxing Disspelled. Yeah. You know, cliches are a part of our day in and day out lives. And people often find cliches as a manner of expressing their thoughts in a short quip that can defer or relate to an experience handed down through life. And in the sport of boxing, just like in most of professional sports and even entertainment, there are cliches that go with the actions and activities. So when we get specific to the sport of boxing, there are plenty. And sometimes they're maddening because people adopt them, often not really knowing what they mean, but they say it because it's familiar. So we're going to talk about that a little bit this evening. And when we talk about them being dispelled, we had a situation recently where the undisputed super middleweight championship was on the line this past Saturday, September 13th, where Terrence Bud Crawford took on titleist Saul Canelo Alvarez. Yeah. And so we saw this fight take place. History was made as Crawford ended up coming out on top after moving up 2 weight divisions to challenge. Going into the bout, there were plenty of cliches thrown around to give individual takes on what they thought would take place during the match, leading up to a result. Well, Mr. Crawford dispelled a lot of those cliches. Yeah. Canelo Alvarez didn't live up to a lot of the cliches. So when we talk about this, I guess one thing that Stormy B-Man is trying to convey is to leave the damn cliches alone when they don't apply and you have no understanding of what they truly mean, particularly when you going about talking about matchups and you don't have the full story on the subjects at hand. Take Canelo Alvarez, for example. You know, he entered this fight with over 66 fights in his career under his belt. Bud Crawford entered with 41 fights under his belt. And what you were able to see is 2 very experienced fighters of 2 different backdrops, 2 different styles of fighting, all of that. But neither man certain cliches apply to, because both of them are accomplished in the sport and have moved around through various weight classes, dispelling, living up to, and living down beneath cliches. Which is why I, going into this fight, spoke of some specifics, never relying upon the cliche, but relying upon the knowledge of whom you're talking about. One of the things that I challenged people to understand going into this was to take note of Canelo's last 5 fights. The man had fought several fighters who really didn't belong in the ring with him. That should not have been left off the table of consideration. By ignoring that fact, it left a lot of people kind of holding their behinds when assessing what could possibly happen going into the bout with Crawford. William Skull, Edgar Berlanga, Jaime Munguia, Jermell Charlo, John Ryder, Gennady Golovkin. Those are Canelo's last 6 opponents. Out of those 6, Jermell Charlo, whom he faced in September of 2023, was a former undisputed super welterweight champion, also moving up 2 divisions to face Canelo. And hindsight being 2020, there was no way to know what the outcome would be, but going in, we were saying like, well, Charlo, he could go up there and really give Canelo the type of fight that many had hoped they would have years before, when he, his brother, and Canelo were all at 154 pounds. Little did we know that not only would Charlo come in not looking the most fit, he did not carry the extra weight like his brother would. When he took his robe off, he didn't have definition in his body. And I was like, uh-oh. But it was his performance that really took things off the table. And Canelo won possibly every single round, including dropping him en route to a unanimous decision victory. Charlo has not fought since, lost all of his titles at 154, and a great deal of respect. And severely tainted his own legacy. But to go along with those fights, just 2 fights prior, Canelo had faced Gennady Golovkin in September of 2022, on the heels of having lost to Dmitry Bivol. The Bivol loss, which led to him circling around to fight Golovkin for a 3rd time, that happened in May of 2022. But remember, after his 2nd fight with Golovkin, he said no more fights with Golovkin. He's moving on. Their 2nd fight took place in September of 2018. My, how time flies. I'm giving this backdrop because I want you all to understand that Canelo hadn't fought a real solid, good opponent in a while. Now, Terrence Bud Crawford is a solid opponent. If for no other reason than his competitive nature. Yes, he came from a couple of weight classes beneath, having acquired the super welterweight title in his previous fight against Israel Madrimov. which was in August of 2024. Now, Crawford has had spells of inactivity, but not due to resting on his laurels or even trying to, have his cake and eat it too, and all of those kind of things. Like you see a lot of fighters today fighting once a year, once every 18 months. Crawford was trying to make fights, but he was still being put on the outside by way of fighters under certain promotions, and yet and still others who were like running interference. So it wasn't that he didn't want to fight. He wanted to make fights. And salute to Bill Haney from DHP, who mentioned to Crawford, hey, why don't you go out and try to fight Canelo? That's a great opportunity at a legacy fight. Of course, you will secure a solid payday, but respectability would come in droves. Now, if we go back to when Mel Charlo was the super welterweight undisputed champion and Crawford had defeated his good buddy Errol Spence Jr. in July of 2023, after flooring Spence in the bout, he leaned over the ropes and directed a comment directly at Mel Charlo saying, "You're next." And Charlo was telling the people sitting around him, "I don't know what he's talking about. We're not even in the same weight class." Whatever, man. But the thing was, Crawford went on to become the undisputed welterweight champion that night and was calling out the undisputed super welterweight champion that same night, that they may come together in a huge legacy fight to face one another. But remember Charlo's comment, we're not even in the same weight class. So you don't want to take Bud's challenge, but you move up 2 weight classes to go face Canelo. Go figure. So the cliches of a good big man will beat a good little man goes out of the window. Because when we saw Charlo challenge Canelo nearly ran him out of the ring. And because people mostly remembered Crawford for defeating Spence at 147, forgetting all about the fact that he had moved up to 154 against Madrimov, because he didn't stop Madrimov, but he still won the fight. They were like, well, he's a pretty darn good little guy, but he's going to move up and face Canelo. Canelo dines on guys like this. No. The cliche died when Crawford signed that contract to face Canelo. This was not a man of the same mental approach to his profession as Charlo. This is the same man who didn't apply that adage of he's looking to secure the bag. Cliche. He didn't look to do it for the money. Chasing legacy, just as he was chasing Charlo, who ran away. Now, so Crawford moves up. But there was something that people left off the table about his merits and accomplishments. The securing of becoming an undisputed champion at 140 pounds. His victory in the unification match against Julius Ngannou had Crawford the first 140-pound four-belt era undisputed champion. August of 2017. But he wasn't done there. He wanted to move up to welterweight to take on the best that division had to offer, and was immediately met with resistance. Promoters who didn't want to work with him, didn't want to align the fighters that they had under a certain promotion to go against him for unification and possible undisputed showdown. Through all the red tape, we finally ended up getting the undisputed fight at 147 with Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. July of 2023. Two-time undisputed champion. Two-time. And notice the direction that he was going. Up. Now, Canelo had moved up and won a title at 175. But he didn't beat the best that the division had to offer. He beat a title holder, which was great because you win a title at a new weight division. That's like, okay, you're a multiple time weight division titleist. That's why I mentioned early in the show when he defended his undisputed titles against Crawford, I called him the super middleweight titleist, not champion. It's two different things. A champion reigns, defends. Some people may feel a little insulted. But when you pick the people that you want to fight, so there's a safe place, a safe haven, a place to kind of settle yourself and be comfortable, all the while taking the checks, securing the bag. Cliche. And in the meantime, defeating fighters who are not on your level, fighters who are still underdeveloped, fighters who have never amounted to being much world class, and fighters who are over the hill. When you dine on that type of opponents on a regular basis and still securing these checks, where you could wear those silk pajamas that Canelo likes to show up to media events and weigh-ins dressed in, you're a little comfortable. Marvin Hagler once said, hey, it's hard to get up and run and do the hard things of boxing and train when you're sleeping on silk and satin sheets. Crawford is a gym rat. Cliche. The gym rats are guys who stay in the boxing gym, training with a fervor. Like, it's like, you know, some guys like to go after work and grab their 40 and sit down and crack it open and talk ish with their boys and whatnot. Crawford doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't do drugs, doesn't eat meat. He's been dedicated to his craft. All the while trying to figure out how to get at that legacy opportunity. But people associate that with chasing the bag. Now, high risk, low reward is one that we heard leading up to this. Typically meaning that in order to participate in this matchup, you're really going to put something of value on the line for the challenge at hand or the challenger at hand. And the dividend, the payoff, may not be of equal value or seriousness or consideration. However, 150 million plus or something like that is nothing to sneeze at, is it, huh? So that is securing the bag, cliche, for a fighter like Canelo, who has been securing bags for as long as we can think back. HBO closed out. PBC has run out of clout. DAZN has seen him come and go, along with some of their budget. Canelo has been like a boxing representative of the mist. As he wades through an area, everything seems to go dry. The bank deposits, everything dry up. Cliche. Instead of having a round robin against fighters of which he should have faced in rematches, he's sought softer opposition. Round robin, another cliche attributed to the sport of boxing. That means when the combatants rally to face one another multiple times over, oftentimes to prove whom is the best or the better, or who may have gotten the better and wants their get back, cliche. Because you're fighting for more than just the bag. You're fighting for integrity. You're fighting for, bragging rights. You see? But Canelo didn't seek out round robins against Austin Trout, Arislandi Lara. Why? Why not? The money could have still been the same. A legacy showdown against the Mexican monster, David Benavidez. Why not? You fought light heavyweight, so if you want to complain about a guy having size on him, you've been in against the likes of Bivol. You've been in against the likes of Kovalev. One truism, cliche, is not about the size of the dog in the fight. It's about the size of the fight in the dog. Canelo found that out, or was reminded of it, because he found it out a long time ago, but was reminded of it Saturday, September 13th, when he faced off against challenger Terrence Bud Crawford. Purpose. He sought not the challenge of Crawford for competitiveness. He sought it as the lesser of an evil. Other fighters he could have picked to fight. Hamza Shiraz is an up-and-coming super middleweight, just moved up from middleweight. Christian Mbili, another fighter who has fought a couple of eliminators, right there for Canelo, but he hasn't never mentioned his name and will never mention his name. There are fighters who are chomping at the bit for the opportunity. There's a new young Cuban at the division, Oslis Iglesias. That young man looks promising. But Crawford, though he has a name in the sport of boxing because of what he's acquired through his last several years moving, that's respect, but shouldn't be the threat that many would anticipate, because styles make fights, huh? And Bud has been known to get hit, huh? People say that, even though he's one of the best defensive fighters in the sport, they don't want to give him credit for that either, huh? There's something about the melanated fighter, especially when they have a few shades darker. People just don't love that, even when it's your own kind. My mother was a very dark woman. So I take personal grudge for intercultural racism. Yeah, that's a pet peeve of Stormy B-Man's. It's an illness. Another cliche in boxing is to take them out into deep waters and drown them. The more experienced fighters of yesteryear used to use that one a lot, because when they would take on challenges of fighters who may have been a prominent threat, they would find ways, well, I gotta wear him down before I take him out. Or some would say, I'll dress him up before I take him out. Joe Louis said, you can run, but you can't hide. Yeah. See, all of that means something when there's a foundation under it to stand upon, firm ground. Canelo is standing on piles of money. He can't see the ground anymore. And maybe that's why he has lost his balance and his way. Crawford spoke of being back in the gym immediately after the fight. People are asking him his next opponent and everything. They don't want to talk about his victory. They want to talk about what's next. You know why? That's because that's a diversion. Because he did something great. Let's not dwell on that. Let's talk about what's next. But you would dwell on it if someone else, non-melanated, had the type of success. You would adorn him with trinkets and all types of valued considerations, put him on the cover of your papers and magazines, put him on the networks, and show him off to the world. Give him endorsement deals. Clothesline. Yeah, that's what you would do. So when I'm observing these things, and I just sit back and say, you know what? This is some bullshit. I watch this man go from nothing to something. And yet and still, even in the moment of his glory, he said, anybody can be a nobody. Why do you think he would make a remark like that? Because the self-hate and intercultural racism won't even allow for the consideration to take place that maybe something really great has happened here. People were waiting for the fall. People were waiting for the failure. People were anticipating it with glory, had shit lined up to say about it if it went the other way. They did the same thing to Ali back in the 60s when he took on Sonny Liston for the first time. Funny how history repeats itself. You just have to study it to know what you're looking at. This image I have on the screen of Crawford is when he became undisputed against Francis Ngannou. This next image of Crawford is when he defeated Errol Spence Jr. Came undisputed at 147 pounds. And even though Errol, who has a tremendous fan base, from Texas and outside of Texas too, across the United States, there are people, they'll still tell you, hey, I rock with Errol. That's fine. You rock with whomever you like in boxing, you're going to rock with them. Win, lose, or draw. That's fine. But when did it become a sin to support your kin? That's a question I challenge to anyone listening. When? That you would just go ahead and dismiss proper representation. Has the residual effects of bondage affected you that much that you can't even have support? Amazing. Which is why a man can go to a weigh-in and be called the villain when he has done no villainous act, has not been in the hands of the law or the police blotter, hasn't expressed profane statements in representation. But he's the villain. Cliche. The bad guy wears black. The good guy wears white. Did you notice at the grand arrivals what Canelo was wearing when he arrived at the grand arrivals? Can anybody that's out there in this chat tell me what was Canelo dressed in when he arrived at the grand arrivals? And before you type the answer, think about what Stormy just asked you. And you know that I'm not lying. Yeah. The shirt that I'm wearing this evening is my shirt. F+. Get to the back of the class. Yeah. See, I want to see how much you pay attention. The proof is in the details. Do I have your attention yet? I said the villain wears black. The good guy is depicted to wear white. Canelo arrived in some designer suit, all white, jacket, slacks, no shirt underneath. Yeah. Dark shades on though. He wore shades a lot. I guess the stardust, huh? Or the gold coins that he's making. They're so bright and luster, he has to put on his dark shades, huh? How many of you picked up on that? I don't expect you to. You're the same ones who were out there. I got Canelo. I got Canelo. Why? He's bigger, man. He's bigger. Oh! But it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog, right? Cliche. Well, no one's really ever done it. Moved up a couple of weight classes and won like that. Oh, yes, they have. Sugar Ray Leonard did it back in, what was that, 88? Against Donnie Lalonde. Had won the middleweight title from Marvin Hagler. Tried to get a rematch with Hagler for a year. Couldn't get that done. So, he and Donnie Lalonde, who was the light heavyweight champion at the time, WBC, and a vacant WBC super middleweight title, were on the line. So they fought at a catch weight for the two titles. Ray Leonard was dropped in that fight. Shook up a couple of times. Cut, if I'm not mistaken, for the very first time in his career in a professional fight. But the size of the fight in the dog showed up and showed out on Donnie Lalonde. KO Leonard. Yeah. Greatness established. I keep telling you, if you don't watch boxing, you have no clue. No clue. This don't start just because you walk on the scene. The path was made long before your arrival. Do you know with his victory how many cliches that Terrence Crawford dispelled? But one he won't ever dispel, no matter how great, how many heights he ascends to. When you don't know, you just don't know. So, what we have is a man who is quite accomplished in this present era. And it's just a shame that there aren't more fighters with the same disposition. Because if we go back a couple of generations, we saw multiple fighters who had that ethic, desire, and yearn to be the best. This image I just put up is from this past Saturday in the locker room. Bud displaying all of the belts. Do you know what that victory does for his children, his little boys? See, we don't think about those kind of things. You know why? Because we're too busy putting one another off to the side. Less consideration, less acknowledgement. If you planted a garden, you should at least take time to savor the vegetation that comes forward, to smell the roses or the lavender. Even as I speak, there are people out here right now totally distracted, talking about everything that has nothing to do, a damn thing to do with what I'm conveying here. And just as I told one of my brothers as I was talking earlier today, I'm trying to help shake people up so that they can refocus and have a new outlook on things. Because time is nigh to put trivial and BS things aside and start walking in an elevated fashion. But it's hard to get people to come out of those shackles. It's hard because a lot of it isn't physical. It's psychological. People perish for lack of knowledge. You should want, strive, desire to be above where you are presently. I don't care if you're in a condo on the 50th floor. Because that level isn't the greatest. The greatest is when you can put down the ladder for someone else to ascend to. What good is it to be at the peak of the mountain by yourself, all alone? Huh? I tell people all the time, like, comment, share the content. You know, when we do what we do, we get notifications that let us know, oh, so-and-so shared you, so-and-so mentioned you, so-and-so did such and such. There's a minute group who share my content on the regular. And the majority of them, well, I won't even say that because then you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. But just let it be known that I know who that is and I know where my real support system comes from. Anything else, I consider you no different than one of these. Yeah. That's you. That's you. That's the real representation right there. You think I don't know? Yeah. I've elevated way beyond this. This is so far in my rear view that there's no view. But some of you, this is a mirror reflection. Your vanity. Yeah. When you gonna let it go? Because it consumes you. And when it consumes you, you'll go about and destroy others. Yeah. That's not a cliche. That's evident. I salute Terrence Bud Crawford for his achievements. What he has done will not be done anytime soon. And I will bask in the success. Simply because many thought it couldn't be done. Many didn't want him to do it. And you've had evidence of that just over the past 24 to 48 hours when some fellow fighters out there have made disparaging remarks and have yet to accomplish a damn thing themselves, huh? Oh yeah, you may have secured a couple of paydays. Who will remember you 10 years from now? They won't remember you in the books, and you won't have the money from those paydays. How about that? Life is 360 degrees in the circle of the yin and the yang, huh? But that's a conversation for another day. Have no idea. No idea. I go through this. I try to talk to you. I try to express, share. Everybody ain't gonna make it. And that's fine. Because I don't need everybody, just somebody, right? Somebodies. Yeah. Because like I said, being on top, it's lonely at the top, but with the right ladder and the right helping hand, you can have the best along with your fellow man. Yeah. I try to share it with you guys. I try. Some people just don't want. They don't want that. Don't want it. It's just like trying to get them to smash the like button. For a show like what we've enjoyed, the like button should have been smashed. Yeah. That's all I got for you this evening. We'll be back next Tuesday for another tussle. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. Peace to everybody out there. Enjoy your week ahead. Just letting that tune ride. That's a heck of a tune, isn't it? That's a heck of a tune. Yep. Peace, y'all. Have a good one.